911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God. Bees.
You said bees?
ABC Thursdays, 911 is all you.
That truck was hauling 22 million killer bees.
With the 3-part season premiere of that,
That's enough bees to kill
44,000 people.
Is that a bee-nado?
this one's gonna sting.
Help is coming!
911, all new Thursdays, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
BooBaes.
Hi,
Hello, and welcome to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. That's right, we're your hosts. I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Joshua.
and today we're here to talk to you about another Sam Raimi film.
Yes.
I almost said classic.
Classic.
But
It's a lot of people love it.
a lot of people do love it.
Our opinions will be found out here in a minute.
Yeah.
When we're talking about it. I also feel like there's a lot of people online that have a good positive reaction to it. It's directed by Sam Raimi, of course, like you just said.
Yeah.
And it is a return to horror for him because previous to this he was doing the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
And so which with Tobey Maguire, the original, the OGs. And so I mean, good movies, great movies actually. I don't know, a lot of people shitted on Spider-Man 3, but I mean I still liked it, but I was like,
I just couldn't get past his
10 when it came
little
out.
emo like walking.
oh
scene.
yeah, that for sure. Tobey Maguire, unfortunately, in that trying to that was a little bit unbelievable. It's a little bit unserious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
kinda.
then watching it now back, especially
I
now.
remember even as a kid being like, what
yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, of course, probably not saying what the fuck, but
But
basically having that reaction.
Well, because he plays the nerdy version of Spider-Man so well. Not nerdy, but the very what Spider-Man is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah, he plays. I always said that Tobey Maguire played a great Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield played a great Spider-Man. And then
Tom Holland
plays a great both of them.
Yeah, Tom
Holland really embodies Peter Parker and
Tom Holland
Spidey.
has that thing about him that he's just kind of lovable. Yeah, it's his butt, I'm sure. But
His butt's so cute.
even in his
You
other
ever
roles,
watch
which one?
the film? Oh, it had Robert Pattinson in it. The Devil All the Time.
Oh no, I haven't seen it, but
It's really good. You should watch it.
Is it more like drama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I'll watch it. Yeah.
It's kind of just
Is it it's set back in a different time, right? Or in the 20s or something?
something. No, there's car.
Oh, okay.
Where there are cars in
There
the
are cars in
20s.
the 20s. But probably
But they were
50s
I
or
think it was
something
more
like
like the 50s.
Okay.
Anyways, he wore a real cute pair of blue jeans and his
You can
butt
see
looked
his
really good. And
apple
that
bottom.
film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looked real good.
Zendaya is a lucky girl.
She is.
They're both lucky for each
I
other,
was
to
like,
be honest.
Zendaya is also the most beautiful woman on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
So
And sweet.
yeah,
She gives no problematic vibe. They both are unproblematic.
yeah.
Like,
and then
they're
they're just happy together.
Yeah.
Love that for them.
There's gotta be some satanic cult shit.
Yeah,
beneath
they're
them.
sacrificing babies on the weekend.
Literally, because it's almost too perfect. But yeah, Sam Raimi doing the horror again because he obviously did Evil Dead. That was his debut. So it's really I was kind of watching some videos that kind of gave a little bit of what was going on to the production for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had actually written a short story with his brother Ivan Raimi I'm assuming they have the same last name, but they wrote this short story a long time ago back in the 80s when they were a lot younger, when they were kids, and then in 2002 they decided to make it into a screenplay, and he was writing it for someone else, actually for someone else to direct it, but whenever they gave it to the studios, they weren't gonna give it a good budget to anyone else but him, apparently.
Oh,
So he was like, I have to take the helm on this and do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, good
so,
for him.
So from 2002 to 2010, that's just like, it's so crazy sometimes to like know how like long it takes for movies. Sometimes like, you know, even longer. It's like, as we've seen, like 20 years for movies to happen. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
We could have an idea now, and in 30 years, we can make a movie of it.
So is it 2009 or 2010?
It might be 2009. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I think it was 2009. Yeah, my bad.
I was like,
I said
damn
2010.
it, I got it wrong.
No,
again.
it was me. But that's just crazy how long it takes. But yeah, so do you want to dive in? Do you have anything to say, Sriel, before ad?
No, I mean, overall, well, we'll get to my opinions on
Mm-hmm.
it. I think it went by really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching it, because it was an hour and 40 minutes, so it's a little bit longer than the ones we've been watching recently. And but it didn't feel that long.
No.
Yeah, it felt like it went by really quickly. I think that's because there's so much like action packed into it.
Yeah, like in my mind, visually, when I see the movie, I kind of see like it in segments, and each segment kind of just like there's, like you said, always something going on.
Yeah.
And so it really flies by. And so, yeah. It starts off and we get a bit of a flashback to 1969.
In Pasadena, California.
And we have a family who show up to a house. They are obviously in need of some help because the mom is like banging on the door. And we have a lady come out. Later on, we find out her name is
Sandurna.
Sandurna. Yeah. I just kept calling her Sean because at the beginning, they that's how they, whatever. I don't know if that's like a part of her name or if it's like a
if that's like a title.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like, a title. But she comes out and they're needing her help, and she's like, you know, she's like, what's wrong? What did you do? What did he do? And
because they had explained that it 3 days ago, like for the past 3 days, he's been having nightmares and stuff too. And she was like, I think she was starting to clue in on what it was.
Yeah.
And then she was like, what did you do?
And they tell and explain that he had stolen a necklace from a gypsy woman.
Yeah.
And
off a wagon,
whenever he was trying to give it back, that she ended up just putting a curse on it and him, right?
Yeah.
And
was like, no, we don't want it back. And as we find out, that's it's a pretty bad curse. One that gets you dragged straight to hell.
To fucking
Roll
hell.
credits.
Literally, because we have him and the family walking in, and Miss Shan is trying to do her Muju JoJo thing, and then that's whenever we have him like getting basically spooked and then running and then getting thrown off the balcony.
Yeah, because this entity comes in and it like smacks the family around.
Oh, that's right.
It like smacks the mom in the face. She goes flying.
Which it loves smacking people in this movie.
Yeah. It was just bitch slapping everyone.
Yeah.
And it came around and it went pop, pop to the dad, and then he goes flying. And Miss Sean Sandurna went flying at one point, and then he runs out and gets backed up against the railing, and then he gets lifted off and then just yeeted right over it. And thankfully doesn't
die immediately.
I don't know if this thankfully, maybe it would have been better if he died immediately and didn't get dragged to hell and
alive.
burned. Yeah.
But I mean, either way, kind of sucks for little Juan, right? What was his name?
I think so.
I picked that up real fast. Juan or Jose, but I think it was Juan. But yeah, unfortunately, after he gets up off the floor, we start to see the whatchamacallit, the building start shaking, and then the the floor that starts breaking. I'm sorry, I can't think today. The floor starts breaking into cracking into pieces, and
like an earthquake is happening.
Yeah.
And a sinkhole's opening up, but it's a sinkhole of flames.
Very much that.
And it opens up and it just goes
drags and sucks him right
the
into
little boy
fucking hell.
right up. Yep. And he's screaming in agony.
Bloody murder.
Yeah. He's like,
you see like the flames and everything in the hands,
and his little you see just his little hand getting sucked through the cracks, and then it just smooths over like nothing ever happened.
And then we see Sean Sandurna, and she's like, we will meet again.
Yes.
And then we get a title card, drag me to hell. And we get some credits rolling, and it's like a depiction, like a
I
storybook.
liked the title card too. I
It
thought
kind of like I was like, oh,
it had a little dun dun.
It did,
with
and
it.
it's depicting the curse and like what happens.
Yeah,
and
all the credits rolling. It basically tells you like
what's gonna happen in the
3
movie.
days for the curse to develop.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminded me of like, well, I guess Midsummer. Remember how in like the tapestry it had basically everything that was going to happen?
Foreshadowing right at the beginning.
And I know so many other movies have done this too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it basically shows you exactly what's going to happen. Depictions of being tormented by a spirit, and then one individual getting dragged to hell.
Yeah. It's pretty literal. It's pretty good illustrations as well.
Yeah.
There and it all reminded me too of, because it's Sam Raimi, of course. I don't know if this was kind of a nod to him, like the Book of the Dead and all that kind of stuff.
It did very much. Whenever it showed the book at first, I was like, is this a Necronomicon?
That's what I was thinking too.
I was like, it's time.
So I was like, it all kind of ties in for him. Maybe it's in the same universe. Maybe it's the third book.
Yeah.
One of them, So that'd be pretty cool if they could like use this lore to kind of bring that in,
That would be.
And so after all of those credits start rolling by, we like open up to like a city shot, and then like the vehicle's the highway, and we're driving with Christine. She's on her way to work, and she's doing I don't know if she had like she's trying to change her like accent basically.
Yeah, I think
from a country accent
to
a city more
professional, more, I guess, probably English.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
Or like British.
Just less accent.
Not British, but like proper English accent.
Yeah. And so we get that
something is abound when the mouth is round.
It's to like really practice her consonants and vowels, I guess.
Yeah, and not sound like this. Talking like she was raised on a farm.
Which some I sound like that sometimes.
I do too. I got a real country twang that'll come out every now and then I'm like,
in the most random moments.
Last night,
oh yeah,
I saw Two Girls, One Ghost live. It was super cool, and I told some people about our podcast.
That's awesome.
So that was fun. I got a new follower.
Hello,
Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
No, Karina.
Hi, Karina.
I'm sorry. It was Karina.
Okay,
I had a few drinks too.
You just met last night. It's okay.
They poured heavy-handed on those drinks at the.
That's awesome.
Andrew got a Long Island iced tea, and I took a sip of it and was like, every time I took a sip, I got shivers.
Yeah.
It
And
was
Long
so
Island
strong.
iced teas from the get-go are already like, aren't they like 4 different liquors in there or something like that? They're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
It's a lot.
So a heavy hand
And
on that.
So I was feeling pretty good after. But they were talking about how in Texas they rented a truck because they got to drive a truck in Texas, and they were just talking about how our accents and then everything, and I was like, wow, the Texas really does live up to the stereotype.
It really does. I'm sure we are like exactly what the stereotypes.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause
cowboy boots and everything. And I mean, I feel like, and even when I was in Europe, I told somebody I was from Texas, and they were like, do you ride a horse to school? And I was like, I've ridden a horse like twice in my life.
Imagine the depiction, and it is very like Lone Star State and very cowboys. And I feel like most people like think of, for some reason, like westerns. I mean, I get it, but like
shootout,
also
we all live in saloons.
But it's also like 2023.
Yeah. We live in modern
society. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun time.
I'm sure though, out west there are probably some places that still look like that. You know, where there's a lot more like barren land. But yeah, that is funny though. Like I have a lot of family up north because of my dad's side of his family, and they always make fun of us because they're like, y'all are so country, like y'all sound so country. Like every time we go up there, they're just like, we just like hearing y'all talk, and I'm just like, oh god.
Oh, we don't even talk that weird.
And literally, we don't even sound like I have a bit of an accent sometimes, but like there are definitely parts of the country where people talk even more country.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's not even country with that twang, I guess, southern twang. I don't know. But it is funny. So for them to be like, y'all sound so country. And then I'm like, I'm just not going to talk.
I'm just not going to talk because now I'm embarrassed.
And I feel myself going into it because we're talking about it.
Fixating on it so much.
But
they also covered the Conjuring house. Like they got to investigate the
cool.
Conjuring house.
That's
They
really
stayed
cool.
overnight in it.
From the first one?
Yeah,
The Bathsheba?
the original. Yeah. And we have justice for Bathsheba because as we talked about in our episode of The Conjuring, we talked about how Bathsheba was pretty much a normal woman who just got pinned as
very Salem witch trial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lorraine Warren just kind of like was like, oh, Bathsheba, and pinned it on her.
Yeah. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
Especially when they're not alive anymore.
But there's also like theories of aliens being like Andrea Perrin, who is the eldest daughter of the Perrin family, who is the original family from the house.
Yeah.
Talked about.
Was she the youngest one or?
She was the eldest.
Eldest, okay,
I believe.
Got it.
And she talked about aliens and stuff too, like encounters and stuff with aliens on the property. So she described it as a portal built as a farmhouse, like disguised as a farmhouse, basically kind of like Skinwalker Ranch, where everything just kind of accumulates there, accumulates.
Yeah.
Culminates.
I've never heard of Skinwalker Ranch. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, well,
I'll look
you
into
should
it.
look into it. Yeah. But yeah, lots of interesting theories on the Conjuring house. And they got to interview Chris and whatever Carrie, the brothers, who directed the films.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I think that's their names. I don't remember now. It's been
a while since
and I had
it.
too many drinks.
But that's really interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did they like is it just like they got to walk through it, or like they got like to like
they had like
explore in depth?
Yeah, they stayed the night there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they stayed the night and like.
Does anybody get to do that, or just them?
Or like they do tours, but I'm assuming you probably have to do a hefty amount of money to stay overnight and stuff. And they got Greg and Dana Newkirk, who are basically like the new Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they collect like all like the Crone of Catskills and stuff, which I think I've mentioned. Maybe that was on my last podcast, but they collect all those items and stuff like that, and like scrying mirrors, and they helped them investigate, which was super cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was a cool live show, and if you don't listen to Two Girls One Ghost already, you should. And then you should also listen to us. I know a lot of you listen to us because of Two Girls One Ghost, so thank you.
Thank you to all the listeners.
Yes.
And so that's really cool. That's really cool. I mean that, and then I've been me and Robert have been watching a lot of ghosts like hunting shows here recently.
Fun.
Which is really cool. And then
which ones?
Well, actually there's this new one, and it's like, okay, it's basically like Queer Eye, but like with ghosts.
I love it.
So it's like an LGBT group of friends, and there's like a medium, and then like a researcher, and this and that, and they go to different places and locations, and they try to basically help like the people there with like their spiritual habitations and their
What's
occurrences.
It called?
I'll have to, honestly, why don't I know the name of it? And I was just watching it last night. It's on Netflix though. It just dropped. It's new. But yeah, they basically that is not it. They basically and it's narrated by Kristen Stewart, which I thought was like, that's so what
I can't imagine her narrating anything.
Living for the Dead. Living for the Dead. That's what it's called.
For the Dead.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I want to watch this.
It's actually really entertaining.
I don't have Netflix anymore since the password sharing, but once I live in Dallas, I'll have it again.
It's pretty entertaining. It's a little camp, but also like I don't know, some of their interactions, I was like, okay, that could have been real.
I love it.
That could have been real.
That's I love watching ghost hunting shows just for the shits and giggles. Like
sometimes it's like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
Like come on guys, be for real.
Like there's
like the ones on like the Travel Channel and stuff.
Yes. Which Ghost Hunters used to be like my favorite, and there's some spin-offs from Ghost Hunters, and I listen to another Amy Bruni's podcast, Haunted Road, which Amy Bruni was from Ghost Hunters and then now has her own show, which that show, I think I've seen it before, and it's a little hokey sometimes with like the Estes method
Yeah.
and stuff. But it's still really fun to watch, and I enjoy it. I Ghost Hunters was my favorite though.
Yeah.
Ghost Hunters walked so Ghost Adventures could run.
Literally. And even last night I was like, what if like straight people can have like their own ghost shows, so then queer people can have their own ghost shows?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because just imagine like they're so funny. They were like, let's have a spookiki, like, like it's just so funny. But it's actually yeah, but they were actually like helping people at one time. There's this one episode with this one lady, and her name's Chrissy, and she with her other friend Betty work at this hotel in like New Orleans or something like that, that's like been having a lot of like, you know, has a lot of shit happen there. And like Chrissy was just like, what this one of the dudes was gonna say in the room, and he was like, so you're telling me I'm gonna be spending the night? And she was like, in hell. And they were like, oh my gosh. And she like was not sugarcoating it at all. She was like, I don't get paid enough to lie, y'all. I actually just love working here and I love the people here, but y'all are not gonna be sleeping tonight.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna Living for the Dead.
Living for the Dead.
Okay. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
I want to watch that.
But there was so much going on in that hotel though. Like I'm like, oh yeah, it's got to be haunted for sure, because even up until recently, like 2021, someone had committed suicide in it. And so there was just so many different like spirits happening.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet.
But back to our movie.
Right. That was our plugs corner.
Plugs corner for everything else.
Yeah.
Yes. We're arriving to work with Miss Christine Wilshire Bank, and we find out that she is a loan officer. She is.
Isn't this what Robbie does?
Yeah, it is actually.
I was thinking of him the whole movie. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this
That's
is what
funny.
Robbie does. Now
Yeah.
I know.
That's literally what he does. And so
I hope he doesn't get cursed.
No, hopefully he'll be
wary
okay.
of old
I
women
know.
with nails that need some love.
Some violin and some
Keratin or
TLC all
something.
over. Yeah, and with her eyes were spooky.
Yeah.
But we're getting introduced, basically setting up her like work environment. She's looking at like the general branch manager, assistant
Assistant manager
desk
Yeah.
that's empty. She is asking her boss about a promotion for that position, and he is
saying it's between her and Stu.
who is new, but he's aggressive, and that's what
and
we
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so between this and her, a little back and forth, he ends up asking her to go to lunch, just basically so she can pick up lunch for him. And then Stu piggybacks up off of that. So right off the bat, Stu's kind of like an asshole.
Yeah, and
So
he
it's
says he
just-
wants spicy mustard
Mhm.
is what he says.
Yeah.
Because later he says he asked for no mayo, and I was like, bitch, no you didn't.
Yeah. I
You
remember.
asked for spicy mustard.
And said nothing about the mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
I know.
I was like,
and part of me
all
thinks,
these
well,
people, I was like, this poor girl is getting shit on from all directions.
everybody. Well,
'cause-
and even Stu though, him saying that, like, and no part of me did he. I feel like he even like meant to do that, as in like he didn't want mayo. I feel like he just did that and said that out loud to show
undermine her.
Yeah, and
show that she's not competent.
exactly.
Can't even get a sandwich order right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was totally trying to make her look bad. He's a dick.
Fucking dick.
I know. She totally should have gave him the button. Totally. Whoops.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Anyways.
No, at the end, the immediate thought when he was like, you can gift it to someone, I was like, Stu.
Literally.
Gift that motherfucker to Stu.
Mhm.
And then she almost gives it to that old guy, and I was like, no, not
Yeah.
him. Just because he's already dying doesn't mean he should get dragged to hell.
Literally.
But I was like, but Stu's an asshole.
Yeah. He
So-
definitely deserved it, especially
Yeah.
through the stunt he pulled in
Mhm.
the movie. But anyways, we end up having her visiting her boyfriend, Clay, at his job.
Clay.
And he's played by Justin Long.
Yes,
And
he does. Justin Long does a phenomenal job in this movie as
Mhm.
well. Really, Justin Long could probably like shit on the floor, and I would be like, "This was great."
We heart Justin Long.
Love
And
Justin
also,
Long.
this is kind of really, we're watching this because we also, we just, we watched Justin Long in Barbarian, which just came out,
And then we
then-
covered Evil Dead 2.
directed by Sam Raimi, that came out a few weeks ago. So it's just
Yes.
kind of another nice little, I don't know, callback for us anyways. But we are having a cute little moment between boyfriend girlfriend. She's, you know, fixing his printer because she takes out a paper clip, and then she gives him a coin, and we find out he's like a really nerdy coin collector.
Yeah, he likes his little
Vintage
coins and stuff.
And then we also get to find out, foreshadowing, that there's a trip coming up to meet his parents.
Yes.
And so that comes into play later on as well.
Because she leaves,
Mm-hmm.
is going to head back to work, and she overhears a phone call with his mother, who his mother was a giant bitch too.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn,
She's getting
this poor
shit on by
girl.
everybody.
Yeah, because his mother was like, oh yeah, that's right, that one
From the farm or something
from
like
the farm. Yeah, and he's like, Mom, I've been seeing her for like over a year.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you know, this girl needs a tennis partner, and you know, she went to Yale Law or Harvard Law, one of the big leagues.
Yeah. His mom basically wants him to be with someone like who she feels has like a better, higher stature in society or whatever, nicer job, more money,
and more money to probably match the amount of money that they have, because their house was fucking nice.
It's massive.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah,
I
we
was
find
like,
out that he comes
damn.
from money.
He does. And apparently he's got 10 grand lying around too.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a college professor, so there's no way he's got.
That's family money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That shit came from, he got trust fund.
Mama and daddy. And so anyways, we're back at work after all of that shenanigans, and that's whenever we get that rude moment between Stu and her, because he's like, no mayo, but he really didn't say that at all.
He didn't. And
and
she
then-
even like says like, you didn't say that, and he was like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I was like,
No, you didn't.
you bitch.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, that's whenever we get her back at her desk, and she's meeting Mrs. Ganush.
Baba Ganush.
My bad. Yeah, I was like, that sounds a little off.
Baba
Ganush.
Ganoush.
But that's what it reminded me of too. Or Baba Stroganoff. What is it? The spaghetti one? Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
No.
It's like a children's book, and she makes spaghetti, and it never stops. And it's like
Babadook.
No. Stroganona. Yes, it's Stroganona.
Now I want beef stroganoff.
Yeah, maybe, and I'm sure that's why
They got that at like
Where?
in HEB, but like just Hamburger Helper.
Oh,
Sometimes I
Hamburger
buy
Helper is honestly good to
It's
me.
so good.
I don't remember. I haven't had it in so long, but there was this one that I thought was so good. I don't know if it's like the cheeseburger one or if it's like something else, but yeah.
The stroganoff one's pretty good
Is
too.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I buy that one and make it with fake meat, and it's
still really good. Yeah, because it's just essentially just the flavoring that you
Yeah.
need. Yeah. Oh,
all the
you're making
seasoning
me want
packets are
that
good.
now. Now I just want to go to HEB to buy Hamburger
I know.
Helper
I might.
and hamburger meat. But I'm gonna actually use meat.
So we come back, and she's now having to make some tough decisions that we heard that
just
Stu could make earlier,
Yeah.
but we weren't sure if she would be up to the tasks. And so, yeah, we meet Miss Ganush.
And it's really unfortunate that this is the
Ganush.
time that she chooses to now have to be tough.
Yeah.
Because it's like maybe the next round.
Yeah.
But
because this woman really did seem like,
Oh,
But,
but unfortunately,
I mean-
too, I mean, she has to do her job. And then, like, I get it as well when it's like, if you've already had, like, all these extensions and, like,
yeah, exactly. She'd already had two.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh, maybe you really do kind of have to pay your mortgage.
unfortunately, you know,
Yeah.
even if you are older and like
And
you
getting sick.
and stuff, like, that's just kind of how the world works. And
Yeah.
the fact that she even is, you know, we're having this back and forth between Christine and Miss Ganush, Mrs. Ganesh, and you know, she's really pleading with Christine to like, can't you just do something, please? And so that's when she has her go to her boss, and her boss has like the 2 extensions. And so then we come back out, and this is whenever Christine is just like really like, you know, hey, we can't do this. And meanwhile, the whole time Mrs. Ganesh looks really spooky. She's got like her dentures that she had left on the table and then pops them back in whenever Christine comes back. And she gives very witch vibes, very like, I wouldn't want to mess with her.
Yeah.
But Christine decides to just tell her no. And so Mrs. Ganesh then proceeds to seem as though she's going to leave. But then she starts begging to Christine to let her, you know, help her out. And even
the begging gets really intense. She like starts kissing her skirt and stuff like that, and was like, it was just, I was like, damn, she's like groveling.
Yeah. And Christine even told her like, you have a daughter, why don't you live with your daughter? Like, and she was just like, I don't want to burden her, which I get that, but also like, no, that's what family's for. And like, unfortunately, the bank has to do their part. You have to do their part. Your daughter should do her part. Like, she should take care of you. You're her child. I feel like, but who knows? Maybe she was a bitch to her daughter. I don't know. She could have been, but we find out later that I guess they were close. I don't know. Maybe that was a different daughter.
I think it was her granddaughter.
That was her granddaughter that we see later?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. But yeah, anyways, Mrs. Ganesh then has to get escorted by security because Christina's like, you know, I need security help. And that's whenever Mrs. Ganesh is like, oh my God, you shame me in front of all these people. You shame me.
Yeah. I beg you shame me. And then just straight up attacks her.
Yeah. Like a dog. Like, yeah. Like,
and goes with her hand at her throat and stuff, and like tried to like,
she just lunges at her. And then that's whenever Christine gets on her desk, and then that's whenever they really restrain her, and she's like, you know, getting escorted out.
And she's fighting. She's got a lot of fight in her. Yeah.
For an older lady, yeah, she sure does.
I was like, damn.
And we see her get taken out to her vehicle, which is a yellow car. We'll be seeing that later.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty funny that all this whole like interaction is also like, it's spooky, but it's campy at the same time. You know what I mean? Because also Christine's like demeanor sometimes is kind of like very like, I don't know if it's because I'm not going to diss the actress, but like sometimes her lines aren't as believable, or she kind of, or I don't know, she's specifically being awkward. You know what I mean? For the character.
I thought Christine's acting was shit.
Yeah,
the whole movie.
You know, cats, they just come and go as they please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would I know? I'm like, bitch, it's your cat. That's
that
how you would know.
Was like out of the whole movie, that for me was like the weakest part, because I was just like, whoa, like what is
I had
this?
a cat.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so the interaction with Mrs. Ganesh was carrying the whole film anyways, honestly. But yeah, so she's
her and Justin Long.
Her
Justin didn't even do much, but I still loved him.
And so then we have it's the end of day, you know, we're about to go home. We have her boss talking to her about some loan, this big loan that she's been working on, and if she can finish it, because he wants to show it to the VPs the next day. And he's basically saying that she's at the top of the list for the assistant manager position, and tells her that she made the right choice and handled it just right. Yeah, as far as it goes with Mrs. Ganesh. And basically is reinforcing what she did and saying, you know, making it, she made the right choice for this assistant manager position. But unfortunately it wasn't the right choice. No, it wasn't, because we have her going to the parking garage to leave work, of course. And that's whenever we have, which also, I guess we never saw her park earlier. But anyways, Iris, we are in the parking garage, and she does see the yellow car in the parking garage. So already she's kind of like, well, that's weird.
It's parked directly across from her too, just like almost as if it's watching her car.
And so she gets to her vehicle, and all this time, of course, like the music's getting spooky. It's kind of getting spooky around her. The wind's picking up, and she gets in her vehicle, and she's looking in front of her at the yellow car. And that's whenever we see the handkerchief flying in the air, right? Yeah.
And the handkerchief. And before she got in her car, she heard the old woman's cough as well, and was like, that's why she started freaking out. Right. And then the handkerchief comes floating like it's a magic carpet or something towards the window and like gets on the window, right?
Yeah, on the windshield.
It does it a lot.
Yeah,
in the film.
it does it a few times, but
so
this time it gets on the windshield and it freaks her out and then the music also like of course like intensifies.
Yeah,
and then that's whenever we have her then looking behind her because Mrs. Ganesh is in the car.
Yeah, because the handkerchief goes up and around the car, and
that's right.
she's following it with her eyes, and then all of a sudden we see Mrs. Ganesh is blue eye, just kind of shining through the darkness, and it's like, ooh, it was fucking terrifying.
Yeah, and then she starts attacking her.
Yeah, she just straight up attacks her, and they're going at it like homegirl. She grabs a stapler. She grabs the closest thing that she could find in her basket and staples Mrs. Ganesh in the face.
Yeah.
But that does not stop Mrs. Ganesh,
Nope.
and she rips out some of her hair. This
Mrs.
poor girl
Ganesh
gets
is strong.
I'm like, first off, I'm surprised that Christine has any hair left.
Yeah, because she gets it ripped out multiple
3 times, I think. Is what, because it happens here. It happens whenever she goes and sees the body.
Yeah,
right. I think she gets
the,
some ripped out then.
Whenever she's getting at the end.
And then at the end,
where's the other part?
Well, I think it happens whenever she goes to see the body, like at the funeral.
Oh, yeah. Whenever she's
there.
like with the body and the green ooze, And so poor thing, she ends up, and Mrs. Ganesh is super strong for her age, and she is getting up to the front seat, and then like she's like basically pulling a Deborah Logan at some points because she's like.
Yeah, starts sucking on her chin.
Yeah,
so they had accidentally in the struggle.
Her teeth popped
Christine's
out, right?
foot, puts the car into reverse, and then her foot slams down on the gas, sending the car like flying backwards into another car, and then she is trying to get. She's like reaching as Mrs. Ganesh is choking her out to put the car into
so funny.
drive, and so she finally does, and then crashes into another car, sending Mrs. Ganesh flying into the front console, knocking her teeth out, and then that's when Mrs. Ganesh then comes and starts just gumming on Christine's chin.
So gross.
And it's just like on her chin.
And finally Christine's like fighting her off, and then she gets the ruler, right, and puts it in her mouth.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole struggle.
Which I'm surprised she didn't die
with that going in her mouth
from that. Yeah.
No. Because then she gets her out of the car, right? She pushes her out through the glass.
She kicks her.
Yeah. And she goes out, she closes the door.
She's like, haha, I beat you, you bitch.
And that's whenever she just
old bitch.
Miss Ganesh just like goes into the car or somewhere because she goes off screen and we can't see her anymore, and it's very Scream like. And that's whenever Christine is just kind of looking around like, where the fuck is she? And then Miss Ganesh just comes on top of the fronts, right? On the windshield?
No. She takes a big like cinder block and crashes it through the window.
Yeah.
And then is able to get Christine out of the car. And then in the struggle, she rips off her button and then holds it up and starts chanting something. And I'm assuming Russian because
I don't know what language she was speaking.
Yeah, everyone else at the house was speaking Russian, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But then she says the words Lamia. And that's all that we can basically gather from it.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yep. And so she stole the button and was real cryptic about it, and then I guess gave it back to her.
And
then just
she gets it back in her hand, and then that's when Christine kind of like goes and passes out.
Yeah.
And it's darkness, and then we come back to, and like she's talking to the police, and her boyfriend's there kind of hugging her. And then it kind of flashes away. And
she says, soon it will be you who comes begging to me. Good ominous line that she fed Christine.
And Christine and Clay are now walking down the street, and this is whenever he's like basically trying to make her feel better. about the whole situation, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just being kind of checking in on her, making sure that she is okay and stuff like that, because he's like, yeah, you kind of gone through a lot.
Yeah.
And everything. And then they stop, and this circle of wind gust comes, bringing all these leaves past her and stuff, and she's hearing like whispering in the wind or something.
Yeah.
And then
she's like looking behind her. She feels that like a presence is like on her, I feel like. And then that's whenever she looks behind her, and they're in front of a psychic reading shop.
Yeah. And it's basically calling to her, and she's like, I want to get my fortune read. And Clay is like, are you kidding me? Like, this is a scam.
Yeah.
This is phooey.
And she's basically just like, if you love me, do this for me. Like, humor me, you know?
Yeah. And so she's like, I just really want to after today. And so they go in, they get her, they are, you know, making some small talk in the shop before the medium shows up. And he shows up, and he's basically like, it'll be $60, but yeah, I can read your fortune. And Clay's like, $60? And I was also like, $60?
Yeah.
That's fucking high.
Yeah.
It better be a good fortune.
It better be. And we find out that it kind of is not necessarily good, but kind of good in a way that at least there is some sort of warning in a way. But yeah, she goes in there, and he's sitting down, he's doing her fortune, and this is when he's like doing the thing that we all kind of assume that like fortune tellers do, when he's kind of guessing kind of things about her, because she's like, you know, oh, you're in banking or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, you work with money.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and you recently lost something.
Yeah.
And she was like, no. And then he was like, you lost something that was taken you didn't lose it, it was taken from you and then given back. And he was like, a button.
Yeah. And she was like and flips her arm, and there's like, of course, the button that's missing from her sweater. And so then it kind of jogs her memory of like, oh shit, like, you're for real. And then that's whenever we have him then getting like, then it starts getting, you know, like, you know, when the wind starts rushing around them or whatever.
Yeah, spooky ooky stuff starts happening. Yeah. The wind's rushing, the picture frames are cracking.
And it's really more so like even the music, of course, the score that they're playing in the background. So we're like, oh, something's building. And he is getting this reading, and then finally it builds up to him seeing this like very quick flashing of like a demon thing
face superimposed on her face. Yeah. And
he's like, OMG, he's like, you know what, this is over, I'll give you your money back, sorry,
just get the fuck out.
Yeah. And then she's like, wait, what did you see? And he's like, have you like dabbled in this, or have you
played with a Ouija board? Have you done something? Because there's a dark spirit attached to you.
Yeah, she's like, no. And then he's like, well, then someone must have cursed you because something's going on. And she's like, well, shit. And so that's whenever we do have her then getting dropped off at home by Clay, right? And he's like, okay, you know, good night. Try to get some rest after that hard day. And this is a really long day, by the way, because she even has time to bake a cake, because she's baked a cake with the cat in the kitchen, the cute little kitty.
Oh yeah.
And then that's whenever she's looking at her farm picture, and she's like, having whatever feeling she has. It was from 1995. And I was like, oh, we were a year old.
1 year old.
And then this is when she starts hearing the noises in the house.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And then she walks to the front and looking through the window, and she sees the gate,
old wrought iron gate. Yeah, just kind of closing and opening and closing, and she's making a bunch of creaking sounds.
And it's kind of like, oh, that's what it is. But then a big like rush of wind like goes.
But also, fucking, the creaking sounds were coming from upstairs.
Yeah, from everywhere.
Yeah. It was like you could hear. And then first off, I was also like, why is your window open? Never have your window open. I was at Andrew's house recently, and his parents keep the house so hot.
Yeah. Do they?
Yeah, they don't believe in AC.
Yeah.
And so I had to sleep there, and I had to sleep with the window open, but I was so scared. Because I was on the first floor, and I was like, what if somebody breaks in? Did it have a screen? And yeah, it had a screen.
Right? I can only imagine.
But I was still so terrified.
It'll be all right.
I was like, oh my God, someone's going to kill me. Yeah. Or they're going to get into the house because of me, because I couldn't sleep in a hot room.
The whole family gets murdered but you.
Because of me.
And you live.
Oh no.
That would be the worst horror movie.
That is
Knock on wood.
knocking on wood. I don't like that.
No, not at all. We don't bring that upon us. But yeah, so she ends up basically getting attacked by this malevolent force that's going through the whole house because it's like spooking her out. We have the pots and pans getting, stirred about in the kitchen.
The house is basically exploding.
It is.
Windows
yeah.
are getting blown out.
She runs upstairs and
Yeah.
goes into a room, and this is whenever she's hiding essentially from whatever this is, the spirit is. And then we could start hearing like foot per foot.
Oh wait, no, that's later.
Oh, that's later?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, my bad. She's still in like the kitchen area and she gets bitch slapped across the room.
Yeah, and then her face slams into the countertop and busts her lip open and stuff.
And she's just kind of looking like
she didn't look
stunned.
super.
She didn't look as stunned as she needed to be after what just happened to her.
Yeah, she looked a little calm.
She looked like she was still looking for someone to be in the room or something like that.
Yeah.
To explain it. But
And I was like, girl, you just got physically attacked by an entity. You need to be freaking the fuck out.
Yeah. Like a good hurl too. Like, whoosh,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know it happens a few times, but this time that's whenever she gets like
She
hurled
gets thrown around. Yeah.
quite a bit.
lot.
Yeah. And other people too. But the Clay comes over and he's like checking her out, and she's explaining to him like what she kind of felt happen, and he's kind of like, could someone have been in here? And she's like, I didn't see them. It was so dark. I couldn't see anybody. And then that's whenever we have the doctor coming over, and he's basically trying to rationalize and explain that because of what she's been through, she has PTSD, and like she's
showing signs of paranoia and stuff like that. And
she basically made it up.
Yeah. That this is all just post-traumatic stress. And events happening from it. So they basically try to write her off, and they're like, she had a stressful day. It'll be better soon. And then she even is like, okay, yeah, I guess, I just kind of got carried away. Yeah. And I can't believe that I'm so embarrassed that this even happened, kind of thing. And I was like, girl, no, something happened to you.
She got gaslit.
Like something really happened to you. She did. Yeah, and then this is where they bring up that they're going to go away for the weekend and to
trip to go see his parents. I forget where they live. The city.
Or I think they were going to go on the trip that they were going on at the end.
Oh, is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, away towards the parents' cabin.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And so they were talking about heading to wherever that was to go to a little cabin, and they were going to have a nice little weekend getaway. Which is, I'd say she earned it.
Yeah, most definitely.
Then
it's so funny how when hindsight, like this movie feels like it happens over a long time for some reason in my mind, but it's literally, it happens over the course of like 3 days.
Yeah. These days are really long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it'd be weeks or something, but it's only 3 days.
And so they end up sleeping. He stays the night over, and as she's sleeping, we see the fly come into the house, and it's real funny because then it like goes to the camera, lands on the camera.
Yeah.
And then
crawls. You see its little hands going.
And then it goes onto Christine's face, and it does this nasty thing of like, going up into her nostrils and out the
Coming out the other.
And then the whole time she's like doing that thing in her sleep, and she's kind of messing with it but not waking up, and then it goes into her mouth.
It like shoves its way into her mouth.
Yeah.
Her mouth is like closed, and it's like
it like pries its way in, and then she wakes up like in a coughing fit.
Yeah.
And then she lays back down, but when she's down, her boyfriend is no longer next to her. Who is it though?
But I almost said Miss Baba Ganoush.
Miss Baba Ganoush. Mrs. Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Ganesh, yeah.
Ganesh is next to her, looking rather decrepit and nasty looking. And then she gets on top of her and is all of a sudden just like puking bugs. Maggots and yeah. It
looked like
mealworms.
Yeah.
Yeah, mealworms. It did look like that. It was disgusting.
It was. It's pretty gross, and they really did it to Christine. Christine had to endure a lot of things that weren't fake or anything.
Yeah, I read that she did a lot of her own stunts and stuff too,
and that she hated like the production of it after the fact.
Oh,
because Sam Raimi like made her do a bunch of stuff.
Like because those bugs got in her mouth.
No, for sure. And that was like all her and the muddy water and all that later on, and then like the flips and the stunts and all that, all her basically. Yeah.
It's wild.
And then that's whenever we have after all of that, she wakes up for real, because it was a dream state basically. And she gets dropped off of work by Clay, and he makes like a dumb joke, and he's like, try not to piss off any old ladies today.
Yeah. And she's like,
And then she goes in, and unfortunately, as she's sitting at her desk, she starts to hear like a fly buzzing, but it's like coming from her stomach.
yeah, which
And
was wild. I
unsettling.
was like, oh,
Yeah, that's also very creepy. Like monsters inside of us. Like,
Yeah.
that's weird, and terrifying.
as we said that, my stomach grumbled.
It's a fly.
It's a fly.
It's a
There's
flea.
a fly. It's a flea.
It's a flea. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
Now I have fleas.
And they're infesting. They're eating
all
you
in
out.
my tongue.
That's my bad. Wrong terminology. They're eating you from the inside out. Still not as good. And so we have then fucking Stu.
Yeah, my note just says "fuck you, Stu."
Fucking
I don't
Stu, 'cause
even
he-
remember what he did.
Well, because he comes up and he's
Is this
like,
when he's giving him the Lakers tickets or whatever?
No, he's trying to ask Christine to help him with like the process of something about a loan.
Yeah.
And then because he's new, remember, and so like, you know, she still, I guess, got to show him the ropes. And then
She's like, I don't really have enough time for this. I got a lot on my brain. Can we do this another time? And he's like,
insensitive.
let me just go tell Mr.
Whatever.
whatever his name is
Yeah,
that
you don't have time.
Yeah.
Which obviously doesn't look good for her because she's trying to get the promotion. So she's like, no, just come here. And so as she's showing him what the process is, he's like tapping on the desk, and it looks like Mrs. Ganesh's nails. And she's like freaks out and like, get your pig knuckle off of my desk.
Get your filthy pig knuckle off my desk.
Yeah. And then
And I was like,
everybody's
damn.
like, what? And then she just like, and he just walks away, right?
Yeah, he's just kind of like,
Whoa.
okay.
Yeah, and then that's whenever she sits back down, and her she gets a phone call, and she starts bleeding immediately through her nose, and she's like, hello, Christine Brown. And then her nosebleed just turns into like this ridiculous amount
Shower.
of blood just coming out.
Yeah,
over the
she's
boss.
spraying blood on boss man, all over the papers, all over herself.
Yeah.
And he's like, here, let me help you. And she's like, no, I got it. And I was like, girl, no, you do not.
Yeah.
Your nose is like getting exercised
It's
right
so
now.
much blood. And then she just runs out all awkwardly, and like, it's so sad.
Yeah.
And then
I was like, that's
and
embarrassing.
then the boss was like, did it get in my mouth?
Yeah.
And then that's whenever we have her
Going to visit Miss
Mrs.
Sylvia Ganish.
Oh, and as she runs out, this is where we see that Stu takes the
Oh, yeah, the case file off her desk.
for the big loan that they were gonna
Yeah.
do. She was gonna get credit for.
Fucking asshole.
Foreshadowing, yeah. But yeah, she goes to visit Miss Sylvia Ganesh, and that's whenever we meet at the door Mrs. Ganesh's granddaughter. And she's very much like, she told us you'd be coming, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, she said exactly that.
Yeah. And then she's like, please, I need to speak with her. And the granddaughter's kind of being like, nah, fuck off, basically. Yeah.
And she's like, what, are you going to make it all better?
Uh-huh.
And make it all better for her? And then she was like, yeah. Like I will.
I'm gonna save the house and everything. But we see as she comes in.
She was like, be my guest.
Yeah. She comes
Do
in.
that.
There's family all over the place, and then come to find out it is her fucking wake, her funeral.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
She's there and she is dead.
Deceased.
DED dead.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I
She
wonder.
did.
I wonder if performing like a Lamia curse then entails that you die afterwards. Like if you curse somebody like that,
like you're a
it's
bumblebee
such a,
and
like,
you stung someone
Yeah.
and you die.
Yeah, I wonder. But she was also pretty old. And so we have then Christine like going up to the casket and looking at her in the casket. And I don't know how it happens
She
so
like
fast.
barely touches it and it breaks and then the body falls. Oh, I think she gets something knocks into her.
Is that what happens? And then she falls into it.
Yeah. And then it breaks and then the body tumbles on top of her. And then I'm assuming it's embalming fluid
It
that
just-
comes out of her mouth.
spewing all over Christine.
And it's just green getting all in her.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
she's
gross.
gumming on her chin again.
Mhm.
She's like sitting there nomming on it. And it just like.
Christine can't catch a break. No. And then I think you are right. Like as she's trying to fight the body, her hands like pulls some hair out.
Yeah, rips
body.
hair out of her head again.
Mm-hmm.
And then so basically after that, she freaks out and is like,
She goes
what
to see
the
the
fuck?
psychic.
Goes back to the psychic, yeah.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, the curse is Lamia. And she was like, yes, that's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it's the black goat. And basically you have 3 days until it comes for you.
And drags you to hell.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, is there any way we can stop this?
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically like, no, but we can try an animal sacrifice. And she's like, I'm a vegetarian.
I would never, for Christ's sakes. Yeah.
Like volunteer with the puppies at the shelter. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't. I would not be able to sacrifice an animal, let alone my own cat.
Yeah.
Like this bitch does. Oh my
pretty
God.
gnarly,
I couldn't.
yeah.
He was like, a chicken or something would suffice. And I was like, then go get the fucking chicken.
Yeah. I don't even think that cats would be good. Like, that's not a good sacrifice.
Yeah, no one
They don't want a cat.
wants a cat.
No. Mm-mm. They want
Except
pork.
for me.
They want pork or they want goat or chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's she ends up going home and after the reading, and she is once again just kind of there. She then gets chased up the house.
This is where they.
Is this where she was baking the cake?
This is the.
Oh no, when she goes up and then the hooves.
Yeah, the gate was banging again, and then she.
Like that. Yeah.
Yes, just like that. This is where she crawls up the stairs and is like running up them, and then like standing in the doorway as we see this shadow of this like goat creature form on the wall and then start creeping up the stairs. And so then she locks herself in the bedroom, and then from underneath the door we just see 2 hooves like line up on the door.
And then they turn into the shadow of hands coming from underneath the door. And then like she ends up getting she gets bitch slapped again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no,
then
she runs to the window. That's right. And then that's when she's looking at the window.
Yeah.
And then the entity comes through the window and then like gets her
busts the window, and then she's getting like thrown around the room by her leg.
And
she's like swirling up in the sky.
Very much kind of like
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, thank you. I could not say it with the girl, and then she gets her stomach ripped, but she's like getting thrown around her room.
Yeah.
And then she ends up getting dropped, and then that's whenever she's like fuck this, and she goes and gets a knife and goes and gets her kitty, and she sacrifices her kitty.
Yeah. She's like, here, kitty.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah,
sad.
that was I was like, is this for real right now? Is she actually? And yep, she.
Because then we see her burying the cat
did.
in the backyard, because boyfriend Clay comes up and he's like, hey, where you at? And she's back there and he's like, is that blood? And she's like, she could have just been like, yeah, I had a nosebleed earlier, but she's like, it's tomato juice.
Exactly. I was like, surely she'll say that she had a nosebleed. And then she was like, oh, I was cutting a tomato. I was like, no, you what?
Who cuts fucking tomatoes?
Yeah, who cuts tomatoes?
Just
no.
Anyways.
But also tomato, that would now ketchup.
Yeah.
If you said that you were squeezing like a thing of
onto
ketchup.
a bagel.
On what?
Onto a bagel. I don't know.
Ketchup on a bagel?
I don't eat bagels. I've never had a bagel in my life.
That's right. Still?
Yeah, I don't have bagel.
You go to Panera after this and get you at least a chocolate chip bagel or the Asiago.
Okay. I don't know.
You have to.
I'm scared now. I want a New York bagel. That's the only bagel I'll ever eat.
Okay.
For my
they
virgin
are delicious.
lips. My virgin bagel.
Bagel lips.
I want to be popped by a New York bagel. The
they
ones with
good.
the cheese and onion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's what I've seen on movies. Like the cream cheese. But yes, she ends up.
I'm so hungry.
Then that's whenever they're talking again about the trip, not the trip, but like to meeting his parents, because he's like, you sure you want to do this? We should do this another time. Like so much has been going on. And she's like, no, like it's okay. I need this.
Everything's fine now.
Let's do
like,
this. Yeah, because she feels like because she sacrificed the cat that it will be all good. Which, hey, maybe it did work, but it only bought her like 6 hours, because then as we're at the parents' house and they're this is when we're like, oh, okay, dang, he has a lot of money because it's a big house and it's like a big property. The car and the like, you know how car like what is that, like the entrance, like
it's
the
got
curbside
like a
appeal,
giant wrap around driveway kind of thing that makes like a circle and stuff. So they've got plenty of space for parking, and it.
My parents had cement poured for their driveway like a month or so ago. It is not even that big of a portion. It is so crazy expensive. Yeah, cement is so crazy expensive.
It is.
That is wild. Like I was like, how much for like literally a slab? Like what? Like, because they just had like this done, and it was so. Anyways, probably depends on who you go to, but anyways, it was expensive. But yes,
Yeah.
they are there. We're meeting the parents. We're getting in. We already
They're
can tell.
remarking on what a beautiful day it is,
Yeah.
and she's like, everything seems a little hunky dory.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're meeting the mom. The mom's like
Bitch.
a bitch because I wrote these parents are a nightmare
Yeah.
because they just keep asking her stuff, and she's like, oh, a harvest cake, is this something you'd make on a farm?
There's a lot of shade
Yeah.
getting thrown by Miss Mama at Miss Christine, and then also she ends up this is when we get that moment where they're walking by the cat, and then cat hisses at her.
Yeah,
And the cat's name is
Hecuba.
Hecuba. One. That sounds like a witch name.
It does.
And then that's whenever the mom was like, oh, Hecuba never like hisses at anybody.
Hecuba's so nice, so sweet.
And then Christine is like, oh, I used to have a cat. And then he's like, used to? Don't we still have a cat? And then her little line, it just gets me. You know, cats, they come and they go as they please. I don't know. How am I supposed to?
How am I supposed to know?
And then we have them getting taken to the dining room for supper. And they're having supper. We're talking to each other. It's a little awkward at first, and then Miss Mama here is like, oh, it must be so hard, working at the bank and counting all that money and stuff, because she thinks that Christine is a teller. But Christine is like, no, I'm a loan officer, and then tells them about this new big deal that she's getting and how she's gonna possibly get promoted to branch or assistant manager. And so then they kind of get a little bit more impressed with her, and then Mom gets definitely more impressed whenever Christine like comes forward about like her own family, and then talks about her mom being an alcoholic.
Yeah, I know. I was expecting her to go the opposite route and be like, no, we can't bring alcoholism into this family, kind of thing. Yeah. But she was oddly receptive to it, and she was like, I find your honesty refreshing. My father had alcohol, like substance abuse. Yeah.
And I was always too ashamed to admit it.
Yeah. And she was like, but you were just so upfront about it.
She says, you've got backbone. And then
so then they're joking.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like everything's a little bit better, but unfortunately, just as things seem to be going really great, Christine starts to hear like the sounds and noises again, and they're coming from behind a door, and she's kind of like, what the fuck? And then that's whenever we have her, it's really breaking her concentration while they're like having small talk. And then we have the cake come out, which she proceeds to try to eat, but is also distracted by these voices. And then there's an eye in her slice.
Yeah, there's something like moving from within her slice, and I thought it was going to be some flies at first, but like, because it would kind of look like a raisin.
I thought it was going to be pieces of her cat.
Oh,
but it didn't happen that way.
That would have been
really traumatizing for
yeah.
you. Yeah. But
I mean, the whole puking of the cat up earlier, I was like, when it hits little body hits the ground, and it just like
thuds,
splooshes its the vomit off of it. Yeah. But it ends up being an eyeball in her cake, and it's, I almost said Hecuba's eye. It's not Hecuba.
No.
Mrs. Ganish's eye, her blue eye that is in it, and she loses her mind over this piece of cake basically, and like stabs it, and then like it looked like a jam or something
coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good effects.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's normal whenever she's looking back around and everybody's still talking, because she comes back to conversation, because then the mom was like asking her a question. She's like, no, I would never. And then Justin was like, what do you mean? We did meet at a bar. And then that's whenever she starts hearing more noises, right?
Yes.
And then that's whenever she's like starts to choke, and then a fucking fly comes out of her mouth, and everybody is like so shocked, and the dad is shocked, and the mom is shocked, and they stop eating the cake. And then she pretty quickly, I think after this, loses her temper, and is like, I hear you.
Yeah.
I fucking hear you. Leave me alone.
What the hell do you want?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And then she like storms out, and then the mom is like, that is a sick girl. Do not chase after her.
Yeah. She's like, I think I better go. And her mom's like, yeah, I think that'd be best.
Yeah.
And then, she was like, that's a sick girl. Don't chase after her. And it was like, damn.
Yeah.
Fucking savage yet again.
And then Justin's like, Eric Clay is like, no, I'm going. That's my girlfriend. Like, I'm gonna go check on her.
She needs help.
Yeah.
So let me go help her.
Mm-hmm. And then that's whenever she goes to see the psychic again, right?
Yeah. And he's basically saying that the Lamia will come for her. And unless she can cough up $10,000 cash by tomorrow to help her get the Lamia off of her, basically.
Yeah.
And she, which is just like $10,000. Damn.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
For her to, I can't believe they coughed up 10,000. If I was Clay, I would be asking for a refund at the end of this film.
Oh, yeah.
I would be like, give me my
money
10,000
back. My
back.
girlfriend still got dragged to hell.
Yeah.
Literally.
So I would like a refund.
Yeah, and then
Write a bad review.
and rightfully so. She's also like pissed off because she's like, "What the fuck? What do you mean? Like, I like." She's just like, "I need to get rid of this," but she needs the money to get Miss Sean, what's her name? Sanderna. But she ends up she ends up going to work the next day, and she really awkwardly starts to try to ask her boss like for an advancement on her pay for her new position. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but like unfortunately the big loan that you were trying to get, it went to First National, and I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna have to check into it. But that doesn't look good for you or me, and you're just not gonna, that's on hold.
Basically you're not gonna get the job.
Yeah, and so she's like obviously devastated, and so she goes home and she ends up
collecting all of her things. She's basically gonna pawn everything that she owns, everything of like a flute, which
ice skates.
Flutes cost a lot of money, so her drill.
Yeah.
She was grabbing anything and everything.
Oh, for sure.
Like her TV or the DVD player or something. And she was grabbing basically anything. And then she's out in the shed out back, and all of a sudden the old lady shows up again. Yeah. Mrs. Ganesh shows up and shoves her whole arm down her throat.
Yeah, she sure does.
Just
and
like
as Christine has her whole arm down her throat and is getting attacked by her, for some reason she has an anvil in her.
Yeah, just hanging from the ceiling, ready to
fall on somebody.
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, and so she cuts it and it falls onto top of Miss Sylvia's head, and then her eyes pop out because Sam Raimi loves having eyes pop out.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, how fitting. I thought one was gonna go in her mouth because she was gasping. She was like,
yeah,
and so her mouth was wide open, primed for an eyeball,
just like
and
plop her in the face, basically, and pop off.
Just
and then as soon as it happens, it's not happening because it was just a hallucination or something, because she's like looking around and nobody's there and there's no blood or anything on her. And so that's whenever she goes to the pawn shop, she trades in her shit and she gets $3,800 for it.
Yep.
And he's just like, take it or leave it. And then we see her crying at home over ice cream.
I love the line whenever Clay comes in and he's like, aren't you lactose intolerant?
Yeah.
And she was like, yes, but I wanted to eat ice cream.
So I was just like, fuck it.
I loved it.
And so, yeah,
because the music was so like swelling and like beautiful in the background. Like it was supposed to be a heartfelt moment.
Yeah.
And so it was all like, so pretty. And then he was like, aren't you lactose intolerant? And I was like, what? And this is such a weird line.
And so she's like, screw it. I feel like shit. So if I'm going to be shitting later, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so she ends up.
It's fitting.
Right.
Shitting for a shitty mood.
And so he ends up like basically telling her like, I love you, and I told myself from the first day I met you that I would protect you, so I basically paid for it all, so it's gonna be okay.
Paid the 10 G's.
And she's like, oh my god, thank you so much. And yes, so this is whenever they end up going to the house from the beginning of the film.
Yep.
And they get inside and the psychic introduces her to Sean Sanderna. Yeah, it's Derna. And and then that's whenever she ends up explaining to them that she's been waiting for this opportunity since she lost that little boy, so many years ago.
She needs to redeem herself and make herself, That's my ankle.
And
Sorry.
she basically wants to redeem herself, as like you said, and get back at the spirit because she lost that little boy's soul.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And she's basically, as they go further into the house and stuff, and they're going into this like big room. She explains that her husband was also a medium, and he picked out this house or chose to build on this land because basically, all in all, the place is basically a portal. Portal for things to come through and for things to go. And so
Yes.
she's basically saying, like, we can do this, but I need like your help to summon the demon. I need you to be believing, and we've got the perfect location basically to do this. So that's what we're going to do. And so they sit down and they have a seance of sorts, and they bring out a goat. This poor goat,
It's like does not want to be there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like reeling.
It was acting for its life, or it just really hated being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then afterwards, once it was chained to the table, it was
kinda
just like, okay.
It wasn't even paying attention.
I
to
kept
what was
looking
going
at Christine too,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, she must have given that goat so many treats, and it was just
Maybe.
waiting for its next treat,
probably.
waiting for a tin can.
Little cute goat. But yeah, they have that seance, and we have the spirit of the Lamia coming through and possessing Miss Sandarna.
Yeah, because he's basically the other guy, the original medium, is saying like, you must invite the darkness in.
Yeah.
And then they're all chanting, I welcome
That's
the
right.
dead into my soul. I welcome the dead into my soul. And then that's when
Oh my bad. Yeah, because all those other spirits start coming in.
yeah,
And then
she was
she's
like,
like,
something else
"Oh,
is here with
yeah."
us. But it was just they called it a something spirit. I forgot.
Basically, just like the extras.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she was just like, be gone, and banished
Be
them
gone,
all.
you foolish spirits, be gone.
And that's whenever we have her then getting does it start shaking?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
the house
says,
starts
he is
shaking.
coming.
Yeah.
And then there's a loud screeching. And then something kind of charges the table after the door starts banging.
Yeah.
And then that's when Sean Sanderna gets possessed.
Yep. And then she comes back to, and like her eyes are all blacked out, and she's got like these razor sharp teeth, and she is basically, you know, the psychic's like, what's your name? And she's like, the Lamia. And then he's like, what do you want? And he's like, I crave Christine Brown's soul.
And she was like, it wasn't even me, it was my manager.
Yeah.
She threw him under the bus so fast. I
Literally.
was like, damn, girl.
And the whole purpose of this, and we got explained a little earlier, was that like she has to channel whenever it goes into sun, whatever, she has to put her hand on the goat so that the demon's entity can transfer into the goat, and then they can slaughter the goat and then finally be done with it. But unfortunately, when she does transfer this, I love actually when she transferred it into the goat, and the goat's like, you fucking tricked me, you bitch.
You bitch.
And then it ends up biting Milos, and then going into Milos' body.
Yeah. And then he's sitting there dancing
Yeah.
all around. And
Yeah.
then this is where he then comes up to her and he's like, I don't want your cat.
Yeah.
And then goes, bleh,
Throws up the cat
throws
in front
up
of
the
her.
cat, and its dead little stiff body lands. Oh, so sad.
Mm-hmm. And then at this point, the Sandarna had come to, and she's chanting, and she's trying to
Banish the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And she is successful in
Yeah.
banishing the spirits, but only from the seance.
Yeah, and outside of Milos, yeah.
And then she just dies.
Poor thing. Yeah, just kills over.
Yeah.
Like
I
nothing.
guess she completed what she needed to do, and then her body was like, okay, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she just all of a sudden is dead. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck?
It happened pretty fast. And I'm kind of
It happened
disappointed
really fast.
we didn't get more of the goat. Like, honestly,
I know the goat
the
was
talking
only
goat
for,
was just for one line, but like I feel like that could have been pretty
you
good.
bitch.
Literally. I just love, you fucking tricked me, you bitch. And that's whenever we have her then leaving with the psychic, and the psychic is like, you know, they're talking because they're walking back to his shop, right? Or somewhere, I don't know, or maybe it's outside of the house.
Yeah, I think they're just outside of the house because you see Sanderna's body getting taken out on a stretcher in like a body bag.
Got it.
And he was like, you saw her drive it from a seance. And he says, when this night is through, the Lamia will come for the owner of this accursed object. And then he was like, you can gift it to someone. And she's like, why didn't you tell me this earlier? And he was like, well,
It's kind of like last resort.
yeah, because then you're damning someone else to hell.
And then I would be an accomplice. So basically, like, we're damning someone else. Yeah, we're responsible for someone else literally who probably didn't do anything.
Tortured in hell for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
But honestly, would it rather be me? Like, okay. I'd find somebody.
If I had a Stu in my life,
I'd find
Stu would
somebody.
be getting it.
I'd find somebody.
My next note immediately, like literally, he barely got the words out of his mouth, and I was like, "Gift it to Stu. Give it to Stu."
Because then, unfortunately, she goes to a diner and she's just like, she's looking around and she's trying to think of who she.
First, she's driving home.
Oh, that's right.
With Clay.
That's right.
And they almost run over a man, and then he
starts yelling at her.
You will burn in hell. You will burn in hell. But as the car like lunged to a stop or came, to a stop, everything in her lap,
fell
including
forward.
the button in the envelope, fell forward and got mixed up with all the papers on the ground.
Clay stuff.
Yeah. And so
she freaks out a little bit and she's like, oh my God, where is it? And then she finds her little envelope. She's like, oh, calm down. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And then Clay was like,
what the fuck?
And then Clay is even like, is it over? Like, is everything good? Might have been right before she hit the guy, but she even confirmed with him, like, yeah, it's over. It's good. Even though she knows it's not, but she feels like it will be,
Yeah. As soon as she gifts it. And so, then she goes to that diner and she's looking for someone to give it to. And she, looks at a couple and her and the waitress get into it for a second. And she's like, I'll give you a tip you won't forget.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, this waitress just
trying to do her job.
Just trying to make money.
Money for real.
That's it.
I mean, vibes.
It probably also wasn't. If somebody told me.
Yeah.
I would have not responded well either, but I wouldn't have said that.
There's a way. And there's also other factors.
Because also I could be drinking coffee and then still tip really well.
Because she even said specifically, coffee drinkers don't tip.
Yeah. Coffee drinkers don't tip.
And so then that's whenever we have her seeing that old man, right? And then she's like, oh, okay.
She like starts walking up to him and then his little wife comes and he's like, oh, what a lovely surprise.
Can't do it. So then she goes to the payphone because she gets the idea and she calls Stu. And she's like, you better get here. I'm going to tell our boss about how that, what you did and how that loan went to the other company, First National. And so he goes and he's all spooked out because she's going to rat him out. And then she is like, I'm going to give you this gift and whatever. But then at the end,
it'll be yours.
She's just like,
her conscience gets the better of her.
She's just like, leave, just go. And then he's like,
what?
You were going to give it to me. He like wants it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, it's okay. And then he just leaves. And then she is looking at her coffee or something, or the button, and then she sees Mrs. Ganish's obituary.
Yeah.
And she sees where she's buried at, and she has this epiphany to be like, And so she goes to the psychic and she's like, hey, is it possible to give this to someone who's already dead? Like, give this to the deceased. And then, which honestly, I don't know if this would have ever even worked, because even if we find out later why, but I don't think that would have worked. Like, she's already dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's no soul. Like, her soul's already, I feel like, accounted
been processed.
For. Exactly, right? It's already been processed. Girl, you can't pull it back.
The
shipping and handling.
Checking system.
Yeah.
And they've already sent it off to its
She's
final
probably already
destination.
in hell. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
For cursing you.
Yeah. But, so he's like, it can be done. So, but you have to like make it a formal, giving and all this and that. And so she ends up going to the cemetery and,
I love as she's driving, she's like, I'll shove it down her goddamn throat.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then that's when the scarf hits the window again, and it's got Mrs. Ganish's face in it.
Yeah.
And then it like gets inside the car.
And then through the motor and then into the AC duct. It comes through there. And then is it the steering wheel or AC? It's probably AC, right? Somehow.
Yeah, probably.
And then it just gets on her face very, whatchamacallit, like a face hugger vibes. And then she's fighting it while still driving. And then she finally gets pretty close to her destination. Over. Yeah. And she gets out and she like starts attacking it.
Beating up a scarf.
Getting it on the ground. And it's making like noises. Yeah. And so she ends up very much like the Evil Dead with the hand.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's beating up the scarf, and then she gets to the cemetery, and she's digging up the Mrs. Ganish's grave, and she gets inside there and sees, opens up the casket, and Mrs. Ganish was buried in a real cheap casket, I guess, because she was able to just rip the little plywood board off the top. But then she starts to fight. The body like sits up and like gets caught in her hair and rips out her hair, and she's like, that's the last hair you'll ever get from me.
This whole scene, she's fighting her. She ends up like knocking the body back and then getting a shovel.
Sounded like
and
Jennifer
then
Coolidge there.
Really did.
This makes me want a hot dog real bad.
And then she ends up like attacking can you attack a dead person? The corpse. She ends up getting the shovel and then like putting it in her head, and then she
shoves her mouth open, and then she's like, choke on it, bitch,
and then puts the envelope with the button in her mouth. And then as she's trying to get out, it's also pouring rain this whole time, and
it's making like a chocolate river.
The whole grave is filling with
Willy
water.
Wonka.
It did look like that, and she's trying to get out, but she can't, and she falls back into the grave, and then Mrs. Ganish's body pops back up and is like around her,
it's like hugging her
down. And then there's a cross like tombstone that like falls on top of her and
knocks
kind of
her unconscious
for a little bit. And
she goes under. You're like, oh shit, she's dead.
This is how it ends, but then she pops back out. What? And it's like OMG, and then she comes out and
the dawn is rising. It's a new day, and the rain is washing her clean, and then we get this cool transition shot from the rain into her shower. And she's
washing
being
it all off,
literally washed clean of this
from her sins.
Yes, of this demon. And everything seems really hunky-dory basically now. She's going out. She's going to meet Clay at the station so they can go on their little weekend getaway trip to the cabin or whatever together. And she's like, it's a beautiful day. She looks so happy in her little floral dress, and she stops by a window, sees this coat that she really wants. The lady's like, we're not open. And she's like, please, I really want this coat. I'm going on a special trip. Blah, 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 blah,
with
blah.
my boyfriend, please.
Let's come to this coat.
Cartman.
Yeah.
And then she ends up meeting Clay at the train station, the train stop.
And we see he was going to propose.
Platform 9 3/4. And then, yes, he was going to propose because he has a little diamond in his little box in his hand. And then she comes up, she looks very cute. And then whenever he notices that she doesn't have her other jacket on, and he's like, what happened to your other sweater jacket thing? And she's like, I got this new one, and I couldn't stand the other one, because of everything that it went through. And so then he's like, because he's like, I found your button. He was like, it must have gotten confused with my coin because they look the same in the envelope the other night. And
she had also just admitted too that
that's right,
like it was my decision not to give her an extension and stuff. And so like she came to terms with it and like admitted it, and then
her fault.
and now he was like, then he brings up the button again, and
and she's like,
you can see the
what?
shock on her face.
And she's like, what? No. And then unfortunately she's like backing up, and then she falls into the train tracks. And there's a train coming, so either way she would have died. But before the train can hit her, and as Clay is like on looking and trying to like extend his hand for her, the ground starts breaking just like in the beginning, and the depths of hell open up, and she starts getting dragged to hell. He watches her get dragged straight to hell. Her face starts like deteriorating and stuff, like as she's getting dragged down, and she's like, help me. And the train hits her, and I mean, she's already under it, but you can like, the train's going over her as she's getting dragged. And kind of disguising the situation probably from other onlookers. And you just see him like with the flames reflected in his eyes, looking all teary-eyed and stuff, because he just watched his girlfriend get dragged to hell. Then that's the end of the movie. And that's it. Because pops up with drag me to hell again. Which I liked. Dong. That's what it gave. That was Drag Me to Hell. Overall, pretty campy horror movie. There's a lot of humor injected into it, which at times like it kind of feels like at times it's a horror movie that tries to be a comedy, or it's a horror movie that doesn't know that it's like trying to be a comedy, and vice versa, like a comedy that doesn't know it's trying to be a horror movie, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely a lot of funny one-liners that happen in it. There are certain situations that are really funny, like just, you know, Mrs. Ganish's eyes bulging out, and then with the anvil, and then her even just like gumming on Christine.
Yeah.
There are just so many moments that it's quite stupendous. It's quite like absurd, but at the same time, that is, if you think about it, that is horrific, because if some old lady was gumming on me, that's quite terrifying.
That's like
Blech.
one of the most terrifying things I could think of.
Yeah, right? And
just
so,
somebody gumming on your
own
like,
mouth. Yeah, that's so.
yeah.
And so,
even like if it was on my arm or something, I'd be like, ah.
That's true. Justin Long did a pretty good job in his role. I feel like even like the other actor, like the dad and the mom, like she made me hate her. So she obviously did really good in her role. And then even the bot, like everybody was really believable, even Stu, except for unfortunately our main actress, Miss Christine.
Yeah.
I honestly have never seen this chick in anything else other than this that I know of.
She looks like a Walmart Brie Larson.
And Hill Country Fair Brie.
Yeah.
Sorry to this girl,
Alison Lohman.
Sorry, Alison Lohman. And you know what?
Hey, Hill Country Fair makes some great products.
They do. And also, like, it's not. I'm not saying like we all have her. I'm sure there's a role for her, or a role out there that she's done that like was really good. I don't know, but like this just was kind of like not it. Her delivery and her lines were unbelievable at some points, and then her reactions, her facial like emoting wasn't enough sometimes. And yeah, other than that, I thought it was a pretty fun story. I would have liked to see the goat a little bit more, like possessed. That would have been really cool. It was giving me like the Witch, Black Thomas, kind of vibes. And then I
put comical.
Yeah. I feel like out of all, I think it'll get a 3 from me.
A 3?
A 3 boos. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 boos. I mean, it's not bad. And I definitely laughed through it. But I don't know. Maybe I just like I don't know what to Oh, this is bad. I don't know. This is not a good review. I'm sorry, you guys. Because it feels like, you know, if it was a comedy, this is a 5.
Yeah.
This is a horror movie, it's a 3. It just, I feel like a little bit less of that injection of the comedy, and it would have been good, you know, like in terms of,
it was one
like,
of those ones that really, it was like, are you a horror movie or are you a horror comedy? What are you doing?
They really hammed it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, sure, if it was a horror I don't know. Let's give it a 3. You go. Because I'm back and forth.
Let's see. Some fun facts.
Mm-hmm.
We already discussed that Alison Lohman did almost all of her own stunts.
Mm-hmm.
When Sylvia Ganish attacks Christine in her car, Sylvia curses in Hungarian. She says some words that I'm not going to try and pronounce. And it basically translates to, shall the devil fly into you? And she also uses the Hungarian word Szajja 2 times. And this word directly translates to bitch or whore in English.
Wow.
The yellow Oldsmobile Delta 88 is Sam Raimi's own car that his father first bought new in 1973. It has appeared in all of his films except The Quick and the Dead, For the Love of the Game, and Oz the Great and Powerful.
Cool. Yeah.
So I guess,
I think Mike was talking about that.
Yeah, he loves that cars and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The script was written after Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi completed Army of Darkness, but Sam pursued in 1992. But Sam pursued other projects before returning to this.
Yeah.
And then a Lamia is actually a boogie woman from Greek mythology who stalks the countryside looking for children to devour. It was a story used to get young children into their beds at bedtime.
That's so interesting.
And then let's see. Oh, some cameos. Ted Raimi, Sam's brother, makes an off-screen cameo as a doctor. Their brother Ivan, also the co-screenwriter of this and several other films, really is a practicing doctor of osteopathic medicine. Scott Spiegel, writer of Evil Dead 2, appears as a mourner at the Death Fest. Christopher Young, the composer of the musical score, can be briefly seen eating a cupcake outside the bakery Christine looks into on her way into work at the beginning of the film.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I don't know what the word I just tried to say.
Director.
I think I was going director and Sam Raimi at the same time.
Director Sam Raimi?
Director Sam Raimi was a spirit during the exorcism scene. So he...
Oh, one of those ghosts that were flying around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he showed up there.
They
He
gave
does like to be in
his movies. That's
his
like
movies,
a little cameo.
yeah.
Those ghosts gave very like Haunted Mansion ghosts.
Yes, they did.
Mhm,
That is
mhm.
exactly what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Like
Which
especially
I
with
just
how
watched
they...
for the first time, like a few weeks ago.
Which,
Robert.
the new one?
No, the old one with Eddie.
With
with
Eddie
Eddie Murphy.
Murphy.
Yeah, I had never seen it before.
Oh,
It's pretty cute.
it is cute.
Yeah.
I liked that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Haunted Mansion has a whole bunch of lore behind it.
I didn't
Like
know
there's
that.
a whole podcast on like the different parks and the different lore behind each of the characters and stuff like that.
Disney made it up, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a real like haunting thing though, right? No.
Yeah.
No. Okay, got it though. No, yeah.
But-
I mean, yeah, I've been to Disney World and I know like I've been on that ride.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool.
They
It's-
have lore, but like behind all of it for all the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It like connects everything together, and different parks have different lore
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
because they all have their own version.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But I think I would give this film a 2.5.
I feel that. That's kind of what I wanted to go to, but I was like, I don't know, that's kind of low. You know what? I changed mine to a 2.5 as well. Sorry.
Yeah, 2.5. It was an enjoyable enough film to watch. Like I was able to get through it, but yeah, Alison Lohman's performance was a little lackluster, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And there were parts of it that were just comical and not in like a good, funny way. And then seeing more of the goat, that would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen more that
goat, less
whole
kitty.
scene. I did like. I thought that whole scene was done really well.
Same. Yeah, that was kind of probably my favorite, the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I liked that scene.
And it was literally 4 minutes, like 5 minutes. It was the shortest scene of like, I feel like the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it should have lasted longer and been the climax
and
of the
made
film
it really
as
big.
opposed to later on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I agree. Overall, good film, good enough film. I don't really understand a lot of maybe the appeal behind it for some people.
The hype.
Yeah, the hype, but
It's
still enjoyed watching it.
Everybody's different. I mean, we all
And
like
this
our
was the second time I'd watched it.
different things.
So
yeah. I'd say this is probably like my 4th time watching it.
yeah, so I mean that's something if you're
Saying
able to
enough.
watch a movie 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that, well, I don't know, because unfortunately, every time that I watch it, I literally forgot like half of this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember most of that.
Yeah, I didn't remember the goat or anything. The only thing I remembered from this film was her at the end getting dragged to hell on the subway tracks.
I remembered the goat for sure, because I remembered really liking that part. But because it just makes me laugh. You fucking bitch, you tricked me. But I didn't remember most of the other movie. I just remember Justin Long.
Yeah, I remember Justin Long being in it.
I didn't remember any of the storyline with like the coworker Stu. I
Yeah.
didn't remember like any of that.
I remembered Mrs. Ganesh.
I didn't remember the parents' dinner. I didn't remember any of that. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I didn't remember the eyeball cake.
Mm-mm.
I remembered Mrs. Ganesh and the way she looked.
Mhm.
And then I remember the ending. But yeah, 2.5 from me because, sorry, I just don't get it.
And a redacted 3 and a 2.5 for me.
So a solid 2.5 from your BooBaes for 2009's Drag Me to Hell, directed by Sam Raimi.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. You did it again.
You did. And once again, we're in the lovely Road Media Network studios.
That's right.
And they always take good care of us. You can listen to our podcast and a lot of other podcasts on roadmedianetwork.com.
And then if you want to listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, you can do so. But the biggest two would be
Spotify.
and also Apple. And then wherever you do listen, don't forget to
Rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to reach out to us, let us know your thoughts on Drag Me to Hell, why we should have rated it higher, or if you agree with our rating, you can do so on Instagram and that our one social media platform, and that is at
BooBaes Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And thank you to all the new followers we've gained on Instagram recently. We appreciate your interaction
We do,
and
thank
everything. So, just let us know your thoughts on the films, and we'd be happy to discuss them with y'all. We got a lot of responses from Hereditary, our Hereditary post. Lots of people responded
on
on
love that movie.
Yeah. It's such a good movie.
Honestly, Toni Collette just sells that movie.
She does.
But yeah, and you can also leave us like we've always all the time say a little bit of a listener request. Please send us a DM
because we're covering
comment on whatever post and just be like, hey, please do this film.
Yeah,
you know?
and then we'll add it to our ongoing list. And speaking of listener requests, the next film that we'll be covering for our listener request of the month of October will be Ganjam Haunted Asylum.
Yes.
A listener request from Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Shout out to Phil.
Yeah.
So very excited about that. I've never seen it, never even heard of it. So
I have heard good things.
So we'll be doing that next.
I have had 2 people that I really trust as far as horror films go recommend it to me.
And say it's good.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And then Phil really liked Midsommar. So I'm assuming if he liked Midsommar, and he really liked this film was enough to request it. I feel like it probably has to be
found
pretty
footage,
good.
Right? You said?
It is found footage, and it is Korean.
Woo! Let's do it.
Yeah.
Where can we tell our listeners they could probably find this? Do you happen to know?
I know it used to be on Shudder.
So if you want to possibly watch before even having the episode come out and having your own opinion, you can find that possibly on Shudder.
Possibly on Shudder. We found this one today on Amazon Prime.
Yes, we did.
It was
for free.
included with Prime.
For free.
For
free. We love for free. But yeah, is there anything else we need to add in there?
Nope, I think that's all. So until next time, you guys.
Bye, bays.
Bye, bays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.